Hi, everyone. Welcome to Third Thursday. This is our monthly chat with the PickFu co-founders, Justin Chen and John Lee.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Today, we're going to talk about e-commerce listings. And, just yesterday and the day before that was Amazon Prime Day. So I hope that you all had a prosperous Prime Day. Did you guys buy anything? I know I bought a couple of things.
I bought a couple of things.
Oh, yeah, more than a couple of things. Already some regret.
Nice. So we've got, the holiday season coming up. We know that the end of the year is a big time for e-commerce. And so we wanted to discuss today ways that you can use PickFu to improve your creative, but also, how you can use PickFu then to take your creative options and use them to improve your listings. So we're going to go through some ideas, some polls, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we will answer them live. If you're watching the replay, you can still ask questions. It might take us a little bit longer to get to them, but we will do that. So let's go ahead and dive in. The nice thing about optimizing for holiday traffic for Q4 is that, you might have to run multiple PickFu polls. And in order to do that, and to make it, more affordable, we actually are running a sale. John, why don't you tell the good people out there about the sale?
Yeah, would be glad to. So you see the URL right there, pickfu.com/bundles. We are running a sale right now on bundles of polls. So the bundles and save deals are available now. You can see the web page there that Kim put up. You can now purchase multiple polls in advance at a reduced cost. So these polls come with preset poll questions and customized audience targeting. These are the best preferences and choices that we've been able to come up with for these specific cases. These bundles start at just $149, but please don't wait because they're only available until the end of October, October 31st. So that's at pickfu.com/bundles, and you can see that URL on your screen. And if you're an Amazon seller, the timing isn't a coincidence for these bundles. We know that you need to optimize your listings. Black Friday is coming up and Cyber Monday, and even start planning for the next year. And so we have written a nice optimization blog post on our blog, as you can see on the screen, for optimizing your listings for Q4. This has a whole bunch of tips on how you can use PickFu to optimize your listings. And it talks a little bit more about the bundles here.
Yeah, and we're actually going to go through some of the polls that we call out in this blog post. So you will get to see an up-close and personal look at some of the examples that we call out. If you want to follow along, I did put the URL down there at the bottom for this specific post. So let's dive in. I want to talk about, some of the, how you spin up these different creative options, whether you're looking at your photography or your A+ content or your titles. I mean, what is the first step to, figuring out how to even go about ideating new things? Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, so when people are trying to optimize their listings, a lot of times they don't know where to start. So what we like to tell people to do is to look at their competition. And so if you're trying to rank for a particular keyword, you obviously just do the search into Amazon and you see who you're competing against. And what you're looking for is, how are their listings standing out from yours? Are they doing something different with their image? How are their titles compared to yours? And then on the listings, do they have different product videos? Like, what are the infographics that they're using? And so you want to take a look at all your competition and see where you can make improvements, where you can leverage some of the similar strategies. We're not necessarily trying to copy them, but we are just trying to learn the best practices. So obviously, we don't want to just take your opinion of your analysis of it. What you can actually do is you can run a PickFu poll to get to see how consumers view your competitors. So one way to do that is you could do a competitive listing audit. So you can just pick one of your competitors. You could put their listing URL up on a PickFu solo poll and just say, take a look at this listing. Like, what are the aspects that you find appealing about this listing? You can also do a competitive test where you take the main images of all your competitors and add yours in as well, or even screenshots of the search results and run a PickFu poll in that way. And the benefit of that is that people will actually give written explanations about why they like your competitor, or maybe you do win, why they like the winning option. And so then you can start to see what elements you may need to work on for your own listing. And you can do this for things within the listing as well. You can take a screenshot of your A+ content, or some of the bullets that you have on the marketing copy. So a lot of different ways to do competitive testing just to generate ideas of where you should focus on your listing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why reinvent the wheel? You know, like you said, you're not really trying to copy, but you can definitely get a sense for what's already out there, and make it work for your own product. I think one of the nicest ways to take the the info that you find with your competition and your own product is to really look at your main image. I feel like this is one of those areas that's just going to have a big impact on how people, find you in search results, whether they click on your ad in search results or on your listing in search results. So I just want to show you, well, let's go up close and personal here with some product tests. One of the things that, I've always found interesting is that people like seeing how the product comes packaged. And so, making your package really attractive and adding that as part of your image can actually really be appealing. So, as you are working with your product photographers, think about, should we just do a product? Should we do a product with the box that it comes in? Should we look at the box design? Should we add other props? All of these things are interesting ways to spin up more options. Another idea to look at is, how do you position your product, right? I mean, this is the same yoga mat, right? Presented 3 different ways. And, people, I think, as much information as you can pack into an image without cluttering it, I think is great. And so people really responded to the fact that this yoga mat comes in a few different colors, right? So, maybe think about things like this. And it also, I guess, comes in, this case, et cetera. So, you really can think about what are the product inclusions that you want to showcase. How do you want to showcase your product, and, think really carefully about who it is that you're targeting, and see what those people have to say. Another good example is, what I talked about with props. And so here is, a very similar product image. Again, they use the product package, but, they were like, do we want to see steak with this steak knife picture, or do we want to see the pouch that it comes with? And interestingly, people wanted to see the pouch because it comes with the product. And I think that is helpful for consumers. So I think that, all of these things are ideas to get, your brain jogging around what to capture when you take photography or when you judge photography. But then, like Justin said, you're only one data point. So your opinion ultimately is not the most important. It is really, what does the market have to say, and what are they, drawn to, and what resonates with them. Beyond even that main image, I think another great use is thinking about your secondary images, right? You've only got so many image slots. I think you should use all of them. So John, why don't you take us through some secondary images?
Yeah, totally. So after you figured out sort of your main image, and that's going to be your showstopper, the one that stops people when they're scrolling in the search results and clicks on your listing, then now you can start, when you're really confident about that, now you can start focusing on sort of your secondary images, the ones that are your supporting cast of images that are going to help make the sale, right? So with your secondary images, those are a chance for you to be able to communicate sort of the most important features and functions in like a really visual way. And you have six images, up to 6 images to communicate sort of unique functions, how the product looks when you're using it, maybe some compatibility information. So here's an example of a poll where a seller is testing out one kind of secondary image. So here you have the chair. Obviously they're selling a kind of chair, but they're using different kind of backdrops and different scenarios to see which one is sort of more visually appealing for the user. So this is obviously a great way to show your product in actual use and sort of help people imagine what your product's going to look like in their room. And if it's their room, which scene is the one that's sort of more attractive to people who are potentially considering this chair.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they also used age targeting. So only people over 45 were eligible to answer this poll. And so obviously, you know, this seller knows something about, you know, their target customer, you know, and to really think about what do people that are 45 plus think about the image? Because, you know, if you're in your 20s, you probably have different tastes.
Absolutely. Let's see, and now we're looking at a different example of sort of a split test among different options for secondary images, although this may or may not actually be, you might be able to use this as a main image as well, depending on sort of how you're submitting it. But in any case, what you can see here is that you're testing 3 different images, and each image is a variant on what features or what aspect is being emphasized about this product, which is a set of reusable Ziploc bags, it seems. So, you know, you can see each image has the bags themselves, but then option A has just the label saying that it's a 6-pack. Option B has additional information about features of this bag. It's a 6-pack, but it calls out that it's also lightweight and that it's double stitched. Which might be useful information for a potential buyer to know. Whereas option C is more sort of showing the product in use, right? It calls out that it's a 6-pack, and instead of showing those other features, it shows the bag in use. This is a produce bag holding a whole bunch of bell peppers there. And so, you know, every single image has its pros and cons. There's simplicity, there's use. Option C, that was surprising to me. I didn't expect that those bags were that large, but if you show me that you can put lots of bell peppers in a single bag, now you're giving me the impression that, hey, this is a lot of value in this bag because it's much larger than what it could initially appear in those images. But as it turns out here, it's a pretty close tie. It's a pretty close call between option B and option C. So in this case, there's definitely the trade-off here in the audience of panelists either preferring those features of being double stitched and lightweight versus those actually seeing that bag in use. So in this case, if your poll comes out to something like this, we would obviously recommend you dive into the comments and read all the explanations from the respondents about why they chose one option versus another.
Yeah, and maybe that prompts you to go back to your designer and come up with, you know, an option that takes the best of both B and C and sees if there's a way to combine them without cluttering the message. I mean, can you sort of take the best of both worlds, or should you prioritize one over the other, et cetera? I mean, and there's lots of different ways to dive into the ideas and spin up even more, you know, creative images.
Exactly. Poll results like this are great. When we see poll results like this, where it's not an obvious winner, how we see it is that it's an opportunity to iterate, because there's obviously pros and there's obviously benefits to those winning images. And so there's an opportunity to iterate and try to come up with something better. And after you come up with something better, you can come back to PickFu and test it to confirm and validate that that is actually a better option compared to what you started out with.
Great. What about this one?
Yeah, so this one's super interesting because this is an example of a poll that's actually trying to accomplish a specific task here, right? These are 3 examples of secondary images that are trying to highlight a specific aspect. In this case, it's an infographic that is trying to demonstrate connection compatibility options for a gaming headset. So I'm not sure about the source of these images. Maybe they're all from the same seller, maybe they're from different competitors. But what you can understand by looking at this poll is that the seller is trying to figure out the right format to really show that headset that they're selling can work with all these different potential game consoles and devices that their buyer may be looking to connect to. And so it's more about trying to choose the format of the infographic that best gets that message across. And in this case, lucky for the seller, it's a clear winner here that option C is the one that really communicates that aspect. So those other ones might be better designed, might be more attractive. Doesn't matter in this case. They're looking for one specific aspect, and that is showing the connection compatibility of the product.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, those images really, I think, like you said, you've got 6 slots. And yeah. I think if you're lucky enough to have a shopper scroll through them, I mean, that's where you really kind of clinch the sale, right? Yeah. If your main image gets somebody to click, then your secondary images are drawing them in and closing that sale. It's overcoming objections. It's giving them more details about the product because, in all likelihood, they're going to go main image, secondary image, and then maybe your product description, right? So you got to think about them in that priority order.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is that I think it's important to keep in mind like what the point of each secondary image is and to not have too many points that you're trying to make.
Yeah.
So like in option C, it's super clear that this is compatibility is what they're going for. And even in the previous one, I would say that maybe that just meant that you needed a different image that was focused on conveying the size of it.
Yeah.
Because option B is kind of talking about the different attributes of like the double stitching and how lightweight it is. And so that might just mean you need to make sure that you got one of each of those images.
Good point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Well, and then, speaking of imagery, another really important aspect is product videos. So let's talk a little bit about product videos. Justin.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what we were talking about with secondary images, you want to use video if you're allowed to upload video to your listing. You want to use video to demonstrate the product in use. You want to address questions that people may have. And you also want to convey your brand, right? Like every brand has a sense of feeling and emotion. And especially in the examples that we have here, like clearly they've got kind of upscale, like very sophisticated feel. And you want to make sure that that's coming through on video because that's going to be the best channel to show that. So, first off, if you don't have video, you still have a month or so to get some video made before, Black Friday. And if you do have video, you can just do some quick editing to make it sharper. And PickFu is a great platform for iterating on edits and styles. And so some things that you should consider when you're evaluating your video on your listing is, first off, let's think about your video hook. Like, what does the first 5 seconds of the video look like? You want to make sure you don't have an overly long intro. You kind of want to still get to the point. People are clicking through these images and videos very fast on the listing. So if it doesn't look like it's going to be an interesting video, like they're not even going to watch the whole thing. So the other things to think about in the video are, how are you going to demonstrate the product in use? What are the different shots and angles that you're going to use in the video? Stylistically, you want to think about the voiceovers. Like you can actually test just the audio on PickFu, and that's actually what we use. We've used PickFu to test the voiceover candidates for our explainer videos and our how-to videos. And we even did one internally for our team to see whose voice would be better on the how-to videos. And we went with the winning voice there of Lacey, our product marketing manager. So, a really, really good option there for PickFu. And then also stylistically, how are you going to display information on the videos? Videos are, basically a lot of images, and you can do similar infographic style treatments on your videos to highlight additional points in text. And so what is the best style or way to display that information on your videos? So those are all things that you should consider when you're reviewing your videos. I think the interesting thing about this video was that it was testing a 60-second long video versus an 18-second long video. Totally different music and text. And surprisingly, the longer one was the winner here. And so, a lot of times you just don't know until you actually test it.
Yeah, I've always thought, I'm a copywriter by trade, and it's not everybody is going to make it all the way through your copy, right? But if they do, reward them for it, right? Make it worth reading. Not everybody's going to get to the end, but for those that do, make it worth sticking around. And I would say that that's especially important in video. If somebody's going to give you 60 seconds of their time, make it a good 60 seconds. And you're right. Like that first 5 seconds, a lot of people are going to drop off. But for those that stick around, make it a good message. Make it something that resonates.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of what resonates, one thing that a lot of sellers haven't really, I think, picked up on yet, but that we've seen some really savvy sellers do, is then take PickFu and really figure out your bullet points. So you've got 5 bullet points on Amazon. And I love this example. So what this seller was doing was selling a grocery product. It was packaged fresh lettuce. And she asked, when buying fresh lettuce, which pieces of information best aid you in your buying decision? And what she did was she worked with her client, who was this packaged lettuce product, and put together 8 different potential bullet points. And she asked the respondents, it was 50 respondents, to rank them. And she used a general population, because really anybody can buy lettuce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really, kind of general use product. And what they did then was basically see, okay, well, what is most important to people and what should we highlight in our bullet points, right? And that really helped them hone in on not only what to emphasize in the bullet points, but again, taking that and what do I emphasize then in my images? What do I emphasize in my infographics? What do I emphasize in my long form description, things like that, right? So we see that pesticide-free, locally grown, these are things that are important to people, maybe less than, the low environmental impact, even though, sure, some people might be interested in that, but that's less important than, the idea that it's locally grown, that there's no pesticides, et cetera. So I think this is a really smart test to think about messaging overall. I mean, sure, it is going to help with your bullet points, and those really need to be, solid, but it's going to help you in other parts of your listing too. All right. Do you guys have any other, things that you want to share about Amazon product testing or e-commerce testing in general?
Well, I just wanted to add one more point about this kind of poll. Like, I love the sort of the cleverness and the savviness of what that seller did here, because this poll generally is a great way to sort of narrow down a set of options that you have to consider, right? Like, you don't have when you're talking about, whether you're talking about your Amazon images or your Amazon listing with its bullet points or anything else, you don't have unlimited space and you don't have unlimited options here. So going through and running sort of a larger set of potential options through this, through our ranked poll, gives you sort of that best of both worlds of like, not only what is the best, but what is the best in what order. So if you have to draw a cutoff somewhere, this will help you do that really well.
You know what else I thought was really clever is that, most sellers are working with designers outside of themselves, right?
Right.
And what's neat about this is you can run this test before you go to your designer, right? Before you brief them on what it is that you want them to design. And so you take the text, you figure out what the messaging is, and you do that before you go into that design step.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
The last interesting application of doing something like this, which isn't necessarily for optimizing a listing for Q4, but this is essentially testing out what the value proposition, what the perceived value proposition of your product could be, right? And so you can actually use this early on in your product concept development, right? We've had some customers come and they wanted to attack like a competitor that was a name brand. And so they wanted to gauge how much price was a factor, how much was the brand a factor. And so these are all things that you could do something like this, where you're ranking different attributes of their the consumer's decision-making process to understand what are the factors I should really make sure to compete on. And so that's essentially what's going on here. We're doing it on the specific selling points of an existing product, but you can do this even before you have your product. Like, I know I want to sell prepackaged lettuce. Like what things do I need to focus on? Okay, I need to make sure they're pesticide free. I need to make sure they're locally grown. So that, you can apply it in both ends of the life cycle.
Yeah, excellent. The 4 Ps, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that is pretty much everything we have. I'm going to give the audience a last opportunity to ask questions in the comments. So please, if you're going to do that, or if you have anything that you want to ask about what we discussed here, go ahead and chime in. I'm going to do a couple of just last plugs. One is that we are happy to take questions at any time, or we'll also potentially run a poll for you. So if you would like us to take your poll and do an analysis, kind of just like we did today here in the live session, go to this link and submit your poll, and maybe we'll talk about it next month. Similarly, let's not forget bundles are on sale. So if you are inspired by anything that we talked about today, go and get a bundle. They're only on sale for the next few days, so don't wait. But save some money while you're running these polls, and take a look at all of the ways that we've laid out here that you can use PickFu to help you optimize. So I think that's going to be it for today. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you next month. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.